This is the new American media.
I'm broadcasting to you, live from the Milky Way galaxy, the solar system, planet Earth, North America, the United States of America, California, Los Angeles, to be specific. Hello, everybody. This is Agree to Disagree. And my name is Brian Engelman. I'm going to be your host. Kelly Thomas was a homeless man with a history of mental illness who was unarmed, sitting on the sidewalk when Fullerton, California police officers approached him, started giving him some contradictory orders. Put your hands on your knees, put your legs out, cross your legs, just kind of messing with him, and followed by one of the officers putting latex gloves on his hands. You know that scene that the doctors do when it's time for the proctology exam? Or it's the joke made by, like, Blink-182 on their album cover. And he says, "You see these fists? They're getting ready to fuck you up." To protect and serve, they say. To protect and serve. Or to put on latex gloves because you know that you're about to fuck him up. Now, if you've listened to the show before, y'all notice that most of the time I don't treat this as a traditional podcast, and I don't usually drop F-bombs. I'm doing this for, well, to be journalistically honest, step one, and to try to imagine what it would be like complying with police officers' requests, sitting on the sidewalk, and having some and having a large police officer start to tell you, I'm gonna kill you. All captured on video. Kelly Thomas. So Manuel Ramos and Jay Cicinelli were put on trial for murder. The beating was on May 7th, 2012, and they were just found by a jury to be not guilty, is the verdict that came in. And now, this coming in, charges against a third officer in the Kelly Thomas beating has now been dismissed. Orange County District Attorney Tony Rakakis, who prosecuted Ramos and Cicinelli personally, said he would dismiss the case against Wolf, the other officer, former officer Joe Wolf, who had been facing charges of involuntary manslaughter and use of excessive force. Now, hang on a second. Oh, okay, yeah, let me back up. The preliminary hearing for the death of Kelly Thomas was on May 7th, 2012. The arrest and murder of Kelly Thomas was July 5th, 2011. And it's a story we've been covering here at the New American Media for a little while. Something we've stayed in contact with, something we've stayed in connection with, and followed the trial and followed the story. And I've never seen a more clear-cut case, a more black and white, obvious case of police brutality and murder. These officers should be in jail for the rest of their lives for murder. Yeah, because the New American Media started shortly after, March, April, maybe in May of 2011, June, July. We had not been broadcasting very long at that time, and this was one of the first big stories I saw. Now, I subsequently had a run-in with the LAPD. Myself, I was at my webmaster's house in the outskirts of LA, and there was a party, and the police came, and I was nearly thrown down a flight of stairs for standing at my friend's home with a glass of water. And I yelled, don't throw me down the stairs. It was a theme party in the summer, and it was I was wearing flip-flops and a Hawaiian t-shirt and just hanging out, having a good time. Car was parked over on the street about a block away. I was staying at my friend's house that night, and they kept telling me to go. And I said, well, this is where I'm going. This is where I'm at. This is where I'm staying tonight. And the one cop, about 6'5", 260, grabbed me and gave me a hip check toss and almost threw me down a flight of concrete stairs. And on step 1, step 2, step 3, my flip-flops started getting tripped up because, that's not the best foot gear anyway. And my only thought was, you guys are mic'd. I'm going to yell this. I said, don't throw me down the stairs. And he immediately stopped. He said, then go. So I go down the stairs. I'm like, where am I supposed to go? I'm here. This is where I'm staying. And then when I was thrown down the stairs, there was another police officer down there. Came over. He said, you in public tonight? You drinking tonight? You in public? Kind of stepping up on me. A little cop, one of those that might have the Napoleon complex. Little guy, and he was, I could see in his eyes, he was so excited to crack some skulls. He was there with another female cop, and the female cop said it would be a good time to leave now. And my friend was walking by at the time, and I walked with him and hopped in his car. So I've seen that look on the police officer's face when they want to do damage, and they're actually excited for it. It's Ron White, it's that comedian that talks about, those bouncers that really love their jobs, and they go home and they listen to, they'll go home and watch Roadhouse and talk about bouncing. That's what I felt like this cop, both of them, the one that I had nothing on me. I was presenting no threat to these police officers. I was doing nothing aggressive, and they escalated to use of force over standing at my friend's home with a glass of water. And that's I got thrown to the wolves, and that same look in the eye that officer gave me. It's what you can see on tape when Officer Ramos is putting on latex gloves and says, you see these fists? Now, you know what, that's going to strike some fear into the heart of a lot of people. There was an incident in Los Angeles here where I live where there were 3 loose pit bulls, ripped the throat and entrails out of my neighbor's dog in my front yard, killed it. And then as we tried to track down what happened and where they were, once again, flip-flops. I should vow to never wear flip-flops again. I heard screams from my neighbor. I don't know, an older lady lives next door, sweet lady, just crying in the yard as her dog is staring at her with cold, dying eyes. As we tried to figure out what's going on, the 3 dogs came out from, we were about a building over at that point, trying to figure out, I have a phone in my hand, I'm like, something just killed my neighbor's dog, something's happening out here, we need you to send animal control. By the way, it was 1 hour and 45 minutes before that happened. And the 3 pit bulls came up, triangulated on me, and I froze, and I said, oh my God, I'm going to have to throw the phone at the first one, maybe punch another, and then the third one's going to get me. They were triangulated. They were hunting. They'd already killed a dog right in the building right next to me. And someone in the street went and distracted, and they took a couple steps the other way, and I told my neighbor, it was me and my neighbor at the time, I said, open your door. And she ran up, opened the door, he ran inside, and my heart was beating out of my chest. And so what I'm getting at is I understand the fear. I understand how that feels when you're confronted by things that want to mess you up. And that's what this cop did to Kelly Thomas, and they proceeded to beat him to death on video. And so it went to court, and they got away from this. They got away from it. There's a list here of Kelly Thomas's pleas throughout the beating. Minutes and minutes and minutes and minutes and minutes and minutes. You can look at it online, by the way. You can search for it, and I recommend you watch it to understand what's going on. Because I don't understand why this isn't front page news all across the world. Kelly Thomas's pleas, "Dad, help me. They're killing me." 31 times on video. "Sir, please. Okay. Okay." 30 times. "Help me. Help me, God." 26 times. "I'm sorry." 15 times. And eventually those pleas go silent as his life is extinguished from him and the pool of blood grows on the concrete, all caught on tape. So this third officer kind of gets off here. The prosecutors opted to drop the charges. Against Wolf because his role in the beating was, quote, "not as reprehensible," end quote. Thomas's father, Ron, says he still wanted prosecutors to put Wolf on trial. Quote, "He's a very, very bad character. He was the first one to strike Kelly with a baton and his hands up surrendering. And the devastating elbow blows crushing his face," end quote, Ron Thomas said. So now you got a situation. Cicinelli is trying to get his job back with the Fullerton police, calling it wrongful termination. Now the police chief just came out, I believe, and said that it was he was fired for an unrelated reason. I don't know, whatever. Could you imagine these cops getting back on the street? So another component is, are these cops going to sue the city for wrongful termination since they were charged with something that they weren't convicted of? And then there's going to be a civil trial. If you remember back to OJ, there was a civil trial. And with the OJ Simpson case, he was found not guilty, and then in a civil court, he was found guilty. So that's another thing happening. You know, and just so many questions with this, and it's so sickening. It's one of the worst things I saw since Nicholas Berg, B-E-R-G, he was a journalist, and in the onset of the Iraq War, post 9/11, he was a journalist that was captured, and he was beheaded live on television. And I remember seeing the story, and I decided I'm going to watch it because I need to understand what's really going on here. Yeah, and that's one of those things you just can't unsee. To see him tied up and held up by his hair while his neck is sawed off while he's alive, and then holding the head up. It's horrible. You know, I certainly did not watch that for some sick pleasure, or I'm some horror movie freak. I certainly don't enjoy watching those types of things in movies or in real life by any stretch. But with this Kelly Thomas case, I heard about it and I watched the video, and it just goes on, and the police show up and they keep beating and keep beating, and there's no reason why he couldn't have been cuffed at so many different points during this murder. I'm going to keep calling it a murder because that's what it was. He could have been detained. He could have been arrested. They could have thrown cuffs on his ankles or on his wrists. They could have found a way to subdue him differently. In this unnecessary escalation to violence. The unnecessary escalation to violence is something I experienced when I was damn near hip-checked and tossed down a flight of stairs for hanging out at my friend's house, which I'm allowed to do. I wasn't throwing I wasn't throwing rocks. I wasn't throwing bricks. I wasn't launching off cuss words. I wasn't being disruptive or belligerent. I wasn't doing anything. And their escalation to force, there was no need for it. And when I got downstairs to have this other cop breathing down my throat, threatening me again, it was unnecessary. And so when you see stuff like this Kelly Thomas case, you go, oh, I get it. And actually, we have video footage, and I should probably release it now. When they went through the home of my web designer and trying to get people out of there, it was a party, there was music. I get it, you get it. You know, and one of the residents is walking around with his cell phone camera, like, what are you doing in here? I did not give you permission to be in here. You know, where's your search warrant if you're going to be inside of this home? And they go down a hallway, and one of the cops starts yelling to my friend with the camera, get away from his gun, get away from his gun, get away from his gun. Oh, yeah? What did that mean? Were you going to smash up his iPhone, destroy it, and beat him unconscious and murder him too? So that on your lapel microphone, you could say he was reaching for his gun, so we had to subdue him and we had to kill him to protect our own? I mean, you know, and it calls to light how many other police beatings and deaths or murders were truly justified. How many? Now, we saw all of the civil rights leaders, and I use that term loosely, because it's, if you want to look up the phrase opportunist or shakedown artist in the dictionary, you'll find Jesse Jackson, you'll find Al Sharpton. How many months in a row did we hear about George Zimmerman, stand your ground, and Trayvon Martin? How much? How often? All the time. See, the thing about that one is that there wasn't video. You know, you couldn't see who made the first move. Did Zimmerman make an aggressive move toward Trayvon Martin? And he wasn't a kid. All right, he was a very tall, very large young man. What was he, 17? You saw the angelic photos from 3 or 4 years before. You didn't see the gold teeth and the middle fingers up and the large man wearing the hoodie that you saw in the surveillance camera at 7-Eleven when he bought his Skittles and his iced tea. You know, and I held off on that story for a very long time because I didn't have all the facts. I just didn't. I didn't have all the facts, and I didn't want to jump to conclusion. I don't want to defend him because he's what did they call him? A white Hispanic, a brand new invented term. It didn't stop NBC from doctoring the tapes to say he's black, he looks suspicious. They totally doctored the tapes to make it sound like he looks suspicious because he's black, and that's not at all what Zimmerman was saying. You know, but this Manuel Ramos, who murdered Kelly Thomas, who's white, and it doesn't matter what color these people are, but could you imagine if it was Officer White who was white beating a non-aggressive Latino man to death in Southern California? Would Jesse Jackson and Al Sharpton be out here? Or is it only when will Sharpton and Jackson only defend blacks? It sure seems to be completely selective. Where has President Obama been on this? President Obama jumps into the Trayvon Martin thing and says, if I had a son, he looked like Trayvon. President's half white, half black. What's with the preference? This Kelly Thomas case should be national headlines. It should be worldwide headlines. And I'm not saying there should be riots like the Rodney King, but you watched Los Angeles burn. You watched it. You watched Los Angeles burn over that beating. And don't forget, Rodney King was not murdered as a result of that. What was he, high on PCP and crystal meth? It's been a while. What was that, 20 years ago? But where is the ACLU coming out against the Fullerton police and police abuse and the blatant murder of Kelly Thomas? Why won't Sharpton and Jackson jump into this one? It doesn't fit their doesn't fit the profile. Why isn't Eric Holder, the Attorney General of the United States, why hasn't Barack Obama personally said you need to get involved and determine if civil rights have been violated. And apparently the federal case is coming to see that they're indeed looking at that. But where is the outrage? You know, I certainly don't want to see riots or vigilante justice. But what is the public to do when they learn that the people allegedly out there, paid by us to protect and serve, really just taking into their hands these fists that are going to fuck you up? What is the public to do? There's no justice in the criminal court case, in the criminal court system. How are we supposed to react if ever pulled over by a cop, or if somebody approaches us? And see, I've talked with several of my police friends. And I'll actually read you one of these back and forths here. It's one of my friends. I'm not gonna get into the specifics of who they are and where they're at. They kind of want to talk off the record, and they don't. They just don't really want to jump into the middle of this. So I get a text message from him right after the verdict. He says, "I see you and your friend." I'll just this other guy. "I see you and so are cop haters yesterday. LOL." I reply, "Just the corrupt, murderous, bully type cops." He says, "I can give you a different point of view. In the end, I will say it was excessive, but not malicious or being a bully. His death would have been prevented by simple compliance." I say horse crap. I'll edit that one. That's not relevant to the story here. I say horse S. He replies, "Put on the vest." I say, "He was sitting." He says, "Yep, I get that. People fight and false cry and all kind of stuff. Dude, you really don't know until you're there. And this isn't a knock on you, it's just a fact of life." So, no, I don't know, and I haven't worn the vest. But I'd say murder and repeated blunt force trauma to the skull should probably be a last resort when you have 6 people there, and he's not waving a gun around wildly or a knife around wildly or something. I think you can cuff him. Yeah, I think you can cuff him. I think all the subsequent officers that came up onto the scene, they shouldn't just jump in and start throwing blows. They should work on subduing. Cuff one arm, cuff another arm, cuff those 2 cuffs together. Do whatever it takes to calm the situation down, not to pile on and murder a guy. Yeah, but once again, Rodney King was not murdered by the LAPD. Kelly Thomas was murdered by the Fullerton PD, right outside of Los Angeles here. And it's sickening. I forced myself to watch the video, and as it went on and on, I'm watching just kind of like in 2007, 2008, as the banks are collapsing and the subprime housing market is just absolutely imploding. I'm yelling at my TV, "Well, why are you doing that? Why are you bailing out the banks? They're the ones that did this. Bail out the people. That's our money. What the hell are you doing?" I'm yelling at Bush. I'm yelling at Obama. Just saying, what is wrong with you guys? I remember thinking all of that stuff. What is wrong with you guys? That type of thing. Watching the video. And you can go on YouTube and type in Kelly Thomas murder, Kelly Thomas beating, Kelly Thomas Fullerton, California. And I urge you to watch it, because I just couldn't understand why they kept doing what they were doing. Except that this punk Ramos, and Cicinelli for that matter, they want to teach him a lesson. Well, this isn't vigilanteism here. You cuff him, you take him away. You know, there was a call that some cars were getting vandalized. This Kelly Thomas apparently had nothing to do with this, if there even was vandalism in the first place, and I don't think that has played out. I think it was just a call because they didn't want a homeless guy around there, and I don't blame anyone for calling in and saying, hey, we got a vagrant hanging out here and it's uncomfortable. I have my kids here. I don't know what's going on. And that's another problem with mental health. There needs to be a way to get some people off the street and get them some help that they need. Why didn't the parents do it? I've listened to Ron Thomas on KFI AM 640, more stimulating talk radio, out here in Los Angeles quite a bit, especially on the John and Ken show. And I mean, they tried. I don't know how many of you are parents of someone that just face it. There's only so much you can do, and then at some point you need some help. And when you call the cops, you never expect help to mean murder, and that's exactly what happened here. I'm a huge defender of the Second Amendment. And thinking about that George Zimmerman, Trayvon Martin case, I still don't know the facts. I know it was presented to the jury. I know that based on the evidence provided, it sure seems like Zimmerman was pursuing an unfamiliar person in the neighborhood in the rain when they've had a string of burglaries in the neighborhood. He's allowed to do that. You're not allowed to jump out of the bushes and attack somebody and start messing them up. Because this Trayvon, from the reports I've read, he was all into MMA and the mixed martial arts fighting. I recall watching an early video before it was wiped off of YouTube, and they get him Trayvon. It was a backyard like a basketball court MMA style fight where this kid jumps on him and he's beating him in the head, kind of exactly like what George Zimmerman claims happened. I haven't been able to find this video again, so that's all just hearsay. And I saw it once. I recall seeing it. I recall them in the video saying Trayvon. It seemed to match the description of the kid. However, as a staunch believer in the Second Amendment, and someone who didn't have all the facts in this Trayvon Martin, George Zimmerman case, and I didn't. I had hopefully as much information as you had, unless you just listened to Sharpton, Jackson, Obama, and Holder, because you would hear a totally different story. But the facts seem to bear out that Zimmerman was pursuing, which you're allowed to do, and he was attacked by Trayvon Martin. And in the fight, he used the gun to defend himself, which you're allowed to do. Now, if there were videos showing otherwise, I would be the first one to condemn the actions of Zimmerman. And even maybe pursuing might not have been a great idea, but it doesn't mean you're allowed to get attacked. Don't forget that. Well, it wouldn't have happened had he... Doesn't matter. Now, if Zimmerman threw a first punch, yeah, it would matter. Because you were the one that escalated nothing into something. A tense situation into violence. You don't do that. But as a firm believer of the Second Amendment, you have every right to defend yourself with lethal force if you feel that your life is in danger. That's one of the cornerstones that built the United States of America. But you had Spike Lee tweeting out the address of where he thought George Zimmerman lived. Go get him. Okay. Lynch mob. I see. If you notice, I'm not calling for a lynch mob with ex-agent Manuel Ramos, R-A-M-O-S, and ex-lieutenant Jay Cicinelli, C-I-C-I-N-E-L-L-I. Ramos 39, Cicinelli 41. I'm not calling for that. But if we can't watch that video and agree as a nation, agree as humans that that's wrong, and that we're better than that, then Lord help us all. I pondered playing some... I can't do it. I almost did it again. I pondered playing some of the audio of Kelly Thomas's cries for help, his pleas for help, as they get quieter and quieter until eventually he's beaten to death as the pool of blood grows larger on the concrete. I'm not going to do that. Oh, I made the decision to post a graphic picture of this because you need to see. The hospital picture taken by the father, Ron Thomas. Kelly Thomas does not even look human. He is beaten, completely unrecognizable. It is the definition of horrific. And I sat there and I forced myself to watch this Kelly Thomas video, and I just kept thinking, stop. What is wrong with you guys? Stop it. Cuff him. Come on. Oh, there's more of him. Cuff him. Why are you beating on him too? He's down. Cuff him. Stop. And they didn't. They kept going. And I sat here at the same desk and computer that I'm at right now, sick to my stomach, crying. Somebody tweeted out and said, if Ramos and Cicinelli don't deserve to be in jail, open the doors, because nobody deserves to be in jail. For the life of me, I don't get it. Why was Rodney King such a big story? Why was Trayvon Martin such a big story? Why doesn't everyone know the name Kelly Thomas? Why? Is it because he's white? Have white people had it too good for too long, so there, now you know what it feels like? I sure as hell hope that's not a prevailing thought in certain segments of this nation. I don't know, I'm asking the question. This should be front page news everywhere. The president should be having a press conference about this. I just don't get it. So, agree to disagree. That's the name of the show. I gotta ask the question. How do I ask it? Do you agree or disagree? How about Fullerton, California cops should have been convicted for Kelly Thomas murder? How about that? Fullerton, California cops should have been convicted for Kelly Thomas murder. Agree or disagree? Leave us your comments. Help us share this. Help us share this. Around the world. Retweet, embed, share, send, embed, whatever you can do. Because this just really doesn't make a lick of sense. I really don't know what else to say. Except it's completely tragic. It's disgusting. The police state is here. You have non-stop police, NSA, illegal surveillance violating the Fourth Amendment. You have cops that are beating people to death as they scream and beg and plead for their life, while 6 of them are smashing his face into the concrete. Just take a look at the pool of blood. See how big it is by the end. Take a look. And then the disregard they show when his body's lifeless and they all get up off of him. Finally stop beating him. These are the type of animals that you could run into in this world. Like the day that I went outside and ran into pit bulls that had just killed my neighbor's dog. If the police can do this to that person, What makes you think they couldn't do it to you? A clear-cut message has just been sent on a day where President Obama is going out there talking about reforms that they're going to make with the NSA. Yeah, sure you are. You got such a great track record. I'm sure I'm going to trust you. From the guy that said, if you like your doctor, you can keep your doctor. If you like your plan, you can keep your plan. Period. Well, he stole my health insurance plan, and he just stole my doctor. And luckily, I'm being forced to pay for pediatric dental insurance. Forget how much the exact subtotal of that is each and every month. I called the insurance company and said, all right, well, you bounced me into a plan that exists, but I don't need this. Oh, no, that's part of the ACA. You have to buy that now. For the kids I don't own? So I'm paying $100 more a month. So we're really supposed to support this lying president, whether he's lying about Benghazi. Yeah, I mean, I guess maybe it's a track record of the president not caring about certain people that get murdered. Ambassador Chris Stevens, the Navy SEALs, all 4 of them. Yeah, we're supposed to trust him that NSA reforms are on the way. Sure. Yeah, I'll believe it when I see it, pal. So you have the NSA violating the 4th Amendment, spying on everything. You got police that are just licensed to kill. Just go for it. Yeah, and what happened to the jury? How in the world could a jury not have voted to convict? You know, and they said, you know, kind of like when Supreme Court Justice John Roberts reversed his opinion on Obamacare and upheld it. What was it, 5-4 decision? His was the swing vote, the deciding vote that he cast. People have wondered out loud, is it possible that the NSA had information? That the NSA had information on Supreme Court Justice John Roberts and he was blackmailed into changing his opinion? Maybe. Maybe not. So, on a similar note, do you think it's possible? Do you think it's possible that the residents of Fullerton, California, who were on this jury, do you think it's possible they felt pressure? That they felt intimidation? Because they'd have to drive past these cops all day? And apparently, since my buddy calls me a cop hater, because I don't want to see murderers wear a badge that I'm paying for, maybe they all do stick up for each other as a gut instinct, just like MSNBC and the crazy left-wing loons just do nothing but defend this constitution violator, Barack Obama, and his whole administration in everything they do. Just defend. Same thing that the right-wing idiots and pundits always did with George W. Bush. Defend. Illegal's illegal. So I don't know. If my friend, the cop, is going to come at me like I'm a cop hater because I just don't want to see murderers out there, do you think maybe this trial could have taken place in a different city where the residents might not have felt the residents and the members of the jury might not have felt compelled to acquit? I don't know. Just wondering aloud. Because I have absolutely no idea how this was a slam dunk. Watch the video. Watch it. You know what, maybe I'll embed it with this with this radio show. Embed the beating at the New American Media. I think I'm going to have to. So you got to get the context. All right. I'm so sad. Disappointed, angry, frustrated, confused, sick. I don't understand why these people are seeing daylight right now. They should be behind cages like the pit bull-esque animals that they are. And I just don't get where are Where are the people in the dinosaur media that are going to cover this? This thing bothers me on so many levels, and especially because it could have been me. I had no idea why I got thrown into an escalation of violence. I wasn't doing anything aggressive. And it almost happened to me by the LAPD. So, like I said, I don't know the answer. I don't know what to root for. I'm certainly not calling for riots, and I'm not calling for vigilante justice to go murder Ramos and Cicinelli. That's not in my heart. And I would not want to see that. I don't know that anything could fix this. I mean, justice would have fixed. It wouldn't have fixed it, but it would have done what it's supposed to do. Instead, you just sent a message to everybody. Don't worry about it. We'll get you back. We'll find a way to. We'll get you off. You'll be fine. After all, how often are you going to get audio and video evidence proving that the perp didn't deserve what you did to him, and that your stories don't match up, and that the people in Fullerton were trying to hide this story for a very long time? Okay. How often does this happen and it's not reported? Unanswered questions. I don't have any answers, but I'm interested in your comments. Fullerton, California cops should have been convicted for the Kelly Thomas murder. Do you agree or disagree? Please leave your comments and check out our homepage, thenewamericanmedia.com. Go on Facebook and like our page by searching The New American Media with spaces in between and liking our page. On Twitter, we're at American_media_. And on YouTube, youtube.com/thenewamericanmedia. Alright, well, more on this case. We're going to keep covering it, the civil cases, and we're just going to keep following it. But you need to know about it. Please help us share this story. I guess if there's one answer, one solution, what do you want? I want everyone to know about this. I want people to know him by name. His name was Robert Paulson. His name was Kelly Thomas. Did I just get his name wrong? What was that? Fight Club? Robert Paulson. Yeah, I think that is it. Yeah, his name is Robert Paulson. Don't forget. Don't forget about this. Please share it with people. Ask them to watch the video. Ask them to learn about this. We just need to know that America's not as safe as it used to be. And if we don't defend each other, who's going to be left to defend us? That's all I got.
You are listening to The New American Media.